Tonight, the national divide with stay-at-home orders set to expire in 8 more states. And as they reopen, the major gaps in testing. Los Angeles, the first major city offering free tests to everyone, but long lines still across the U.S. New protests, armed demonstrators inside a state capitol, plus alarms about the food supply, a 6th worker at one meat plant dying. And in New York, the Navy hospital ships sailing away, and heroes who kept cities going while even their jobs could be in jeopardy. That potential breakthrough drug and the patients who believe it already saved them. Also, Richard Engel on another big step toward a vaccine. How soon one could be available. Our interview with the sister of an ER doctor who took her own life after seeing the horrors of coronavirus up close.
She said it was like Armageddon. She said there are so many sick people everywhere.
When doctors and nurses themselves need help. The sexual assault allegation against Joe Biden from a former Senate staffer, pressure growing for him to answer that allegation. And stranded at sea, up to 80,000 still trapped on cruise ships, including Americans. What's the holdup?
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening, everyone. As national stay-at-home guidelines are set to expire, a go-your-own-way approach is rapidly taking hold across the country. Governors facing a common enemy, but with a splintered array of strategies, leaving some of us under lockdown and others perhaps making dinner reservations. Tonight, there are signs of hope in the push to test more Americans for the virus and learn just what it is we're facing as the number of dead keeps climbing, now over 62,000. We have a lot to tell you about tonight, starting with Miguel Almaguer.
Tonight, Los Angeles, home to 4 million people, becoming the nation's first major city to offer free coronavirus testing to all residents. The massive move to screen citizens, followed by the mayor of Jersey City, who says testing everyone is key to getting the economy back on track. With more drive-up sites in states like Wisconsin, in New York, the epicenter of the national outbreak, free testing for all is not available. Today, in an unprecedented move, the governor says starting next week, the city's subway system will be shut down from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. amid scenes like these of the homeless asleep on trains.
Let's clean, disinfect those trucks, those buses and trains every 24 hours. Why? Because that's the way we best protect the health of our essential workers.
With the national death toll climbing over 60,000, the state-by-state approach to reopening night and day. Just as officials in Texas announced beaches will reopen tomorrow, today the governor of California ordered beaches closed in Orange County, citing scenes like these. But local officials say it's an abuse of power, saying residents have been obeying guidelines.
I think the governor is overstating the concern, and as I said, I don't believe this is a wise move.
As protests to end stay-at-home orders in Michigan unfolded today, including armed demonstrators who entered the Capitol, states like Arizona, Illinois, Maine, Nevada, and Washington all extended their mandates. In Colorado, union officials at this meat packing plant say a 6th employee has died from the virus. But in Pennsylvania, hairdresser Nicole Messino says she's opening her doors whether she has permission or not.
I have employees that are like, I'm not going to be able to eat if it's 4 or 5 weeks. So I had to make the decision that, you know what, I'm just going to open my business.
With roughly 8 states that have stay-at-home orders expiring today or tomorrow, no state has reached the White House threshold to ease that restriction, a 14-day decline in cases.
You can't just leap over things and get into a situation where you're really tempting a rebound. That's the thing I get concerned about. I hope they don't do that.
With the national guidelines from the White House advising Americans to stay at home expiring today, American and Delta say all employees and passengers will soon need to wear face coverings, a sign of what could be to come at businesses all across the country. Lester?
All right, Miguel Almaguer, thanks. As scientists race to find a cure, the company that makes a promising treatment we told you about here last night says it can produce several million rounds of the drug, Remdesivir, next year. The FDA is expected to approve emergency use soon. Here's Stephanie Gosk.
22-year-old John Vipolis had to cut short his semester in Spain. Days after returning home, he was in the hospital.
I was almost hallucinating, and I didn't really know what was completely going on due to the high fever and the cough.
But then a glimmer of hope. He was chosen to be part of a controlled trial for the antiviral drug Remdesivir.
Had you seen any improvement up until that point?
None whatsoever. It just only got worse until that point.
And then he says he did get better, quickly.
This is not the total answer by any means, but it's a very important first step.
Preliminary results from the NIH study showed that the median recovery time for patients who took Remdesivir was 11 days, compared to 15 for those who took the placebo.
4 days in such a terrible disease like this is a long time. It's a lifetime, to be honest with you.
Within the coming days, the FDA is expected to issue an emergency use order for the drug, allowing it to be given to COVID-19 patients, even though it doesn't have official approval yet. The FDA points out that the results of the study, which included more than 1,000 patients in the U.S., Europe, and Asia, are still preliminary, but they are generating excitement.
This trial came just in time for those patients who were desperately in need for a new treatment.
At New York's Montefiore Hospital, 91 patients took part in the trial.
We are looking next at whether or not now we have one really good drug, whether or not if we combine two drugs that work in different ways, can we attack this disease even better?
Vipolis, an asthma sufferer, is thankful.
After the first 3 days, I was really able to do stuff on my own. And shortly after that, I was able to get off oxygen.
Remdesivir may not be a silver bullet, but health officials say there's now proof that coronavirus has a weakness. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News, New York.
This is Gabe Gutierrez. As the Navy's hospital ship Comfort departed New York today, a moving salute from the city's first responders. Now there are new questions about whether their jobs could soon be on the line without help from the federal government.
The state has a $13 billion deficit. They have provided us nothing. Nothing for police, nothing for firefighters.
Across the country, state and local governments are facing crushing budget shortfalls due to cratering tax revenues. One report estimates states will be short more than $200 billion over the next fiscal year. 21 states would have to fill budget gaps of at least 10%. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has suggested states could declare bankruptcy.
We're not interested in borrowing money from future generations to send down to states to help them with bad decisions they've made in the past, unrelated to the coronavirus epidemic.
Will you be able to fill this huge budget shortfall without deep cuts to the police and fire departments?
No, there's no way.
Nan Whaley is the mayor of Dayton, Ohio, which has already furloughed nearly 500 city workers.
We need to have federal assistance because those frontline services, one, are so important, and number two, they help keep the economy moving.
The toll on government workers has been grueling. Today, mourners said their final goodbye to 5-year-old COVID victim Skylar Herbert, the daughter of 2 first responders in Detroit. In New Jersey, State Police civilian employee Latasha Andrews was just 33 years old. 3 other members of her family have also died.
She's just an all-around amazing person, always really giving 100%.
Across the country, many local governments say they may have to make drastic cuts by June. Lester?
All right, Gabe, thanks. The brave healthcare workers on the front line are also giving so much. And tonight we take a closer look at the toll on their mental health. The sister of the emergency room doctor who took her own life has a message. Here's Kate Snow.
She was fierce, and she was brilliant, and caring for patients and having compassion for people was her being.
Jennifer Feist is the sister of Dr. Lorna Breen, who oversaw the emergency room at New York Presbyterian Allen Hospital.
She said it was like Armageddon. She said there are so many sick people everywhere. She said people are just dying in the waiting room before they even get in.
On Today, Jennifer and her husband Corey told Savannah Dr. Breen got sick with coronavirus and just days later went back to work.
I kept telling my sister, if you can't function, you can't help anybody. You have to sleep.
Sensing she was in trouble, her family and friends got her to a hospital, but after being released, she took her own life.
For somebody whose life's calling is helping people, and she just couldn't help enough people, And the combination was just untenable.
I cried the whole way home.
Arlene Van Dyke is a critical care nurse at Holy Name Medical Center in New Jersey. It was devastating when a beloved colleague, Jesus Villaluz, passed away.
Today we lost him. We lined the walls as he was taken away. That was a beautiful moment.
A study of doctors and nurses in China found a considerable proportion reported depression, anxiety, insomnia, and distress, with women reporting more severe symptoms.
I'd like you to try to breathe in for 4 and out for 4.
It's why Northwestern in Chicago is taking time for wellness breaks.
It really allowed me to drown out all the noise, check in with myself, make sure that I am feeling okay and have the energy to keep going.
It's much easier to keep a person in good shape when they're already in good shape than waiting until they break down.
Exactly why Dr. Breen's family is speaking out.
She couldn't stop working, and she certainly couldn't tell anybody she was struggling. And that needs to be a conversation that changes. People need to be able to say they're suffering and to take a break.
Her family's created the Dr. Lorna Breen Heroes Fund to provide mental health support to healthcare providers. Kate Snow, NBC News.
Such a heart-wrenching story. We're back in 60 seconds with Richard Engel and surprising news inside the race for a vaccine. In the search for solutions tonight, the major drug company partnering with Oxford University to make a potential vaccine, aiming to get it done much faster. Here's Richard Engel.
In a major show of confidence, one of the world's top drug companies, AstraZeneca, today announced it's pushing ahead to produce millions of doses of a trial coronavirus vaccine, even before the research is complete.
Our goal is to have a vaccine that can be available to the public on an emergency use basis by the end of the year.
And how many of these emergency vaccines do you want to have ready by the end of the year?
At this stage, we have a goal to produce up to 100 million doses by the end of the year, and then scale up from there and go beyond this next year.
The company is betting big, making the vaccine developed by the UK's Oxford University, which last week began human trials. So far, the vaccine has proven effective in monkeys. The researchers say they'll have test results this summer. AstraZeneca isn't waiting until then, but says it's starting mass production immediately.
Why this vaccine?
The technology is well demonstrated, validated already, because they've used it to produce other vaccines. They started very early. They started back in January, so they're well advanced. And that vaccine is in the lead. So therefore, we felt this is the one vaccine that we can help accelerate and globalize.
We asked the CEO how much it would cost. He said during the pandemic, they would sell it at cost. He estimated a few dollars a dose. Lester?
Richard Engel tonight. Richard, thank you. There are growing calls this evening for Joe Biden to address an accusation from a former Senate staffer who says he sexually assaulted her 27 years ago. We get more now from Andrea Mitchell, and a word of caution. Some of the details in the story are graphic.
Joe Biden facing mounting pressure to speak out about an accusation he sexually assaulted a Senate staffer in 1993. Former Senate aide Tara Reid says then-Senator Biden pinned her against a wall and assaulted her in a corridor. She started telling her story in March to news outlets, including Democracy Now!
I remember his hands underneath my blouse and underneath my skirt, and his fingers penetrating me as he was trying to kiss me, and I was pulling away.
The Biden campaign has said this absolutely did not happen. Reid's public account has evolved over time. Last year, she was among a handful of women who called out Biden for what they called inappropriate, though not sexual, touching. At the time, Reid describing Biden touching her on the shoulder or running his index finger up my neck during a meeting. NBC News has reached out to 5 people Reid said she told about the alleged assault, either at the time or since. 3 former Senate staffers told NBC News they do not recall any such conversation with Reid. A 4th, who asked that her name be withheld, says Reid did tell her about it at the time. A 5th person, who also spoke with NBC but did not want her name used, recalled Reid telling her about inappropriate touching, but not an assault. Reed also says her mother called into Larry King Live in 1993 without identifying herself, talking about a daughter having a problem with an unnamed prominent politician. Her mother died in 2016. NBC cannot verify she was the caller. Earlier this week, Linda Lacasse, a former neighbor, recalled Reed telling her about an alleged assault several years after the alleged incident. What Lacasse texted us was consistent with what Reed had told us, but Lacasse has not responded to our calls to verify the account. Biden's allies, including several women he has considered as a potential running mate, are defending him and citing his record combating violence against women. And today, Nancy Pelosi.
I do support Joe Biden. I'm satisfied with how he has responded.
The Trump campaign has seized on the accusation, although the president has been accused of sexual assault by multiple women. The president has denied their accounts and commented tonight.
I think he should respond. You know, it could be false accusations. I know all about false accusations. I've been falsely charged numerous times.
NBC News has asked Tara Reid for an interview. Vice President Biden will be answering the allegation for the first time tomorrow on Morning Joe on MSNBC.
Sure. Thank you. Up next, the Americans still trapped on cruise ships and the standoff keeping them there. Back now with tens of thousands, including Americans, still stranded at sea. Sam Brock on what's taking so long to bring them ashore.
Tonight, Melinda Mann is one of hundreds of crew members, including 9 Americans, still stuck on board a Holland America cruise ship, not allowed back into the U.S.
What have you been doing for the last few weeks, last few months?
I've just been doing a whole lot of nothing, honestly. I've just spent a lot of time in my room waiting for my government to let me in, and I'm a U.S. citizen.
So frustrated, she took this video trying to convince the security on the ship to let her off.
They tell me I can't get off. The ship has told me they're not letting me off the ship to be arrested.
The CDC estimates 80,000 cruise ship crew members still in limbo near the U.S. coast. American Maria Simone is on a Royal Caribbean ship and showed us the view from the room she shares with her fiancé.
And we are in Texas, Galveston, Texas. I can actually see Texas right on the other side of me. I just can't get off.
After cruise ships were hit with COVID cases, the CDC ordered companies to come up with plans to safely disembark personnel. Negotiations are ongoing. Tonight, the CDC tells NBC News Holland America has complained to them about some of the agency's conditions, including arranging private transportation because it's too expensive.
Tonight, Royal Caribbean and Holland America parent company Carnival both say they're working with the CDC right now to try to get crew members home safely. And Carnival also says it's working with the CDC on its requirement for private transportation. Lester?
All right, Sam, thank you. Up next, what's all that racket? Before we go, we want you to know we posted a new episode of Nightly News Kids Edition. We take a closer look at our pets and their risk of getting COVID-19. Also, what's all the racket? It's the sweet sound of thanks. And we show you the nightly ritual, plus Game On, laying off the screen time for some old school fun to pass the time. Nightly News Kids Edition on our NBC News YouTube page, also NBCnews.com and Peacock. That's Nightly News. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.